January 2011. It had been my first time out of the country and first international mission trip. At the time, I was a sophomore at the University of St. Thomas and a new member of the VISION program, which stands for Volunteers in Service, nationally or internationally. As excited as I was for this opportunity, I wasn't naive to the fact that it was going to challenge me in many different ways. This program valued simplicity and minimalism in a form I have never lived with before, but I was up for the challenge of stripping myself from my phone, the internet, from materialistic comforts, makeup, and even daily showers. After seeing the limited list of items we were encouraged to bring, I realized quickly that I would have lots of extra space to pack a positive attitude. I traveled with 10 other students to San Felix, Venezuela for a 24-day trip to serve, learn, and grow. We got to meet so many special people in San Felix who welcomed us with open arms and hosted us with great love. We stayed at a church and shared 3 bedrooms. The weather was hot in the day but cooled down at night, which explained why the bedrooms had open windows with the metal window grill designs. The church had the perfect courtyard for me to play volleyball with the neighbor kids, and behind it was a giant, worn-down, multi-functioning tennis, basketball, but mainly soccer court. You know, that's where I spent as much free time as I could, as I played a lot of soccer with the neighbor kids. They made sure of it by throwing lizards into my window every time they knew that we were back from a job site or excursion. We drove around in this old white bus that looked like it was out of the movies. Our driver's name was Brigido, and he was always kind enough to stop in really beautiful areas for us to explore and take photos. A seminarian student named Jose also helped us to get to know the people of the church and the neighborhood. We had multiple different service projects where I had to learn some new skills to be able to help. One of my favorites was when we went to a nearby church to tear down a wall so that we could build an extension for them to add a bakery. We knocked down a brick wall, cut and bent and tied steel rods, transferred lots of bricks, made and laid concrete. I have so many memories from this place. We got to visit some beautiful waterfalls, see the Gran Sabana from afar, visit a historical castle, and we took a boat ride on the Orinoco River. In a country that has been on a roller coaster of political distress and poverty, I could see many pockets of beauty and God's presence everywhere I went, not just with the sights and the views, but especially with the people. One of the most impactful days for me was the weekend where we drove around the city to deliver meals to people. And by meals, I mean we brought bread and juice. It was a humbling day as we drove through parts of the city that were clearly even more impoverished from the one we were staying in. Some of the people we were visiting were abandoned family members who were homebound, and others were just families going through a hard time. Paula, the lady who was leading us to the different houses, was basically everyone's best friend. She was always welcomed with hugs and kisses at every house we visited. I distinctively remember one of the homes we visited. As we went into the house, most of the group turned away within seconds. The smell inside was close to unbearable. The man we were visiting was blind, and it was difficult for us to communicate. Paula introduced me to Caballito and explained how he got that nickname, which translates to little horse. He smiled so big when he heard Paula's voice. He was so excited to get some food and juice. Paula directed me and showed me how I could hold up Caballito's pillow to help him sit up to be able to drink the juice. It was obvious to see that he was sick, malnourished, and that he didn't have anyone close to him to help him bathe or eat. It seemed as though it was painful for him to even swallow, but knew his body needed it. He kept saying, "Dame jugo," which means give me juice, give me juice. As sad as I felt imagining his life, his spirits were in such a different place. He said something in Spanish that I didn't quite get, and Paula said, "He just said that you're pretty," which made me laugh through my welled-up tears, as I knew he was blind and making a joke. When I returned from this trip, I had what I called opposite culture shock. I came back to a closet full of clothes, a phone full of text messages. It felt like every part of my body was yearning for deep conversations, but the busyness of life had only had time for superficial ones. After lots of reflection, I declared my major to be community health education because of this trip. It was only 9 days after we returned to the U.S. that we had heard from Jose that Caballito had died. As I look back on the trip, it's the moment with Caballito that I remember most. I got to see and experience so many things, but spending that 15 to 20 minutes with Caballito changed me. It made me realize that the length of which you know somebody doesn't always determine the impact or influence they have on your life. It means that I could meet a kid and spend time with them on one day, and with God's help, might be able to inspire them. I might be the vessel that God needed to help guide people in a direction that makes this world a better place.